Chapter 18. Still moving through his mental list, Steele sat down at one of the chairs beside the small round metal table. Towards the dock, the fog had followed him and continued to linger just beyond the influence of the lights, rising like a shroud wall to seal out the night. It was better if this particular area was not so illuminated for all to see, and from his seat under the lights he could see not far into the darkness. "Hey, Jessica," Steele spoke up thoughtfully. "Have you taken control of the security systems of the compound?" There came no reply, and a slight frown came to his face before he took out his earpiece to see if it was still working. There was a small light on the side of the earpiece, indicating that the battery was full, so he put it back in his ear. "Jessica, are you there? Buttercup?" Still no answer. "Great," he mumbled to himself and sighed heavily. The minutes began to drift by slowly, and he checked the time on his watch. Clara was set to arrive soon, and then the dealer. Steele felt like standing and pacing about the area, but he forced himself to sit. He was nervous, more so than he had been in a long time about anything. But that was good. He'd always found he worked well under pressure. And if this dealer was anything like the rumours Steele had gathered, he needed to have his mental sharpness. The dealer's name was Rex Sterling, a former mercenary from the mainland. And according to Deke Reuven, Sterling was a beast of a man. Steele suspected Reuven was referring to something else when he gave that description, but Steele chose not to investigate that any further. Other sources aside from Reuven, namely Knox, had told him that Rex Sterling was a hard case, aggressive, and did not negotiate. All indications were that Rex also had a fiery temper and was quick to lose his cool. In Steele's mind, Rex was a perfect person to be dealing with, especially if Jimmy decided to intervene on this deal. "Man, what a mission!" The exclamation in his ear made Steele jump slightly as Jessica started talking again. "I'm glad that's over. I nearly died, I swear." "Another video game?" Steele asked, slight irritation in his tone. "I was trying to speak to you before." "Well, sorry," Jessica replied indignantly. "And if you must know, it wasn't a video game, but something much more dangerous. I had to take out the trash." Very dangerous," Steele replied sarcastically. But considering Jessica was an agoraphobic, according to Knox anyway, going outside her unit to dump the garbage down the chute would probably have been very difficult. "I know, right?" Jessica agreed, ignoring Steele's sarcasm, and she let out a deep breath. "I had to take a shower and change my clothes and everything. But I'm safe now. Did you want something?" Have you taken control of the compound security system?" Steele asked, repeating his previous question. "Yeah, of course. What do you take me for?" came the bridled reply. "Can you do anything about the lighting under here?" he asked curiously. "On or off, those are your options," Jessica replied simply. "Damn it! I spilled coffee on my hoodie. Please hold for a moment while I change it." The young woman went silent and Steele drew in a deep breath, hoping this hack would actually be useful and not just distracting. "Screw it," Jessica said seconds later. "I'll just take it off." "Not like it matters, right?" Steele remarked offhandedly, his gaze going towards the main gate of the compound that could just be seen under the lights and through the low, creeping mists. "What's that supposed to mean?" snapped the hacker. "Well, if you don't leave the house much, you don't really need to wear clothes," Steele replied, slightly confused by Jessica's anger. "That doesn't mean I don't like to wear anything," the young woman snapped. "It doesn't mean I don't like to look good. Do you think I've just been sitting here in my underwear all this time? Well, before I had a shower, I was, but that's not the point. And I don't mind you imagining me in my underwear either. That's still not the point. I'm a professional. So when I'm working, I do it professionally, and that means wearing proper attire." "A hoodie is proper attire for a professional?" Steele wondered, a frown at his brow as he listened to Jessica's tantrum. "Look, I don't care what you wear." "How can you say that?" Jessica snapped. "You don't want me looking my best?" "I didn't say that," Steele grumbled, running a hand over his face. "Why are you upset? Why are we even arguing? Just stop already." Jessica did stop, but from the sound she made through the mic, it was clear she was unhappy, for a reason that completely eluded Steele. Fortunately, a pair of bright headlights at the main gate drew his attention as a limousine arrived, followed by 2 standard utility vehicles. The guard at the gate let them through and closed the gate behind them as the 3 cars went into the parking lot around the corner and out of Steele's view. Clara was likely in the limousine, and the 2 larger cars, most likely filled with her armed backup. Minutes later, Steele caught the sound of shoes on the concrete, and Clara came from the city side of the undercovered area. Farron and a man Steele did not know close at her heels. No others came with Clara, confirming Steele's thoughts that they were staying back, ready for when they might be needed. "Good evening," Steele greeted Clara, Farron and the tall thin man. He did not bother standing, and the trio joined him, Clara taking up the only other seat at the table and forcing Farron and the man to stand. "Sure," was all Clara offered, and replied, her scarred cheek twitching slightly. "Where's this dealer?" "You are early," Steele stated, bringing a frown to the woman's face. "These 2 the only support we need?" "The others are waiting in the cars," Clara replied curtly. "If Jimmy shows his fat, ugly face, we'll blow it off. Farron and Mike are all we need here." Clara was clearly agitated, for she had not been sitting long when she stood up and started to pace back and forth, her arms crossed before her chest. As the company associate paced to and fro, Steele watched her closely. His first impressions of Clara had been positive. She had seemed in control and more ready to use her intelligence than lash out with force. Now that he had spoken with the woman more, he had detected a deep undercurrent of rage that flickered to the surface in uncontrollable twitch of her scarred cheek. Unlike Jimmy, who let his emotions control his actions, Clara seemed desperate to control her outbursts. Despite her desperation, Steele could see that it was only a matter of time until she exploded with fury, not unlike a volcanic eruption. Clara would brood in her anger and keep everything bottled up deep inside until it could no longer be contained, and she would lash out with white fury. Once her anger was exhausted, she would return to her brooding. From what Steele could see now, as he watched her pace, it looked like Clara was at the point where she could no longer control herself. If Jimmy was to interrupt this deal, he could see Clara completely losing control. That thought both delighted and scared him, and he did not want to be around when that happened. Steele glanced at Farron and the man, Mike. Both of them seemed nervous as well. Farron was chewing a nail and glancing towards both the car park and the dockside. Mike, on the other hand, acted cool, with a slouched posture and his hand in his pocket, but the man was already sucking down his 5th cigarette. The sight of his associates made his own nervous energy seem mild. "Rex Sterling has arrived," Jessica said in Steele's ear, making him flinch slightly. "He has quite the convoy with him. He has 4 big 4-wheel drives and would look more like armoured trucks than military use. These manlanders, I tell you, no style whatsoever." Jessica suddenly burst out laughing, making Steele clench his jaw irritably. "You should see this guy. I take back what I said about no style. I'll tell you what he's wearing. Oh, no, wait. It's better if you see him yourself. This Rex guy is a beast, though. Damn. I wonder how much he can bench press." Steele took a deep breath, subduing his desire to hiss at Jessica for her chatter distracting him. "Oh, that's right. I'm not supposed to be talking. My bad. I'll shut up now. I'll tell you when something important pops up, though." He could breathe easier now, without the young woman chattering away in his ear. She did seem like a nice girl. She did sound a bit young for someone so skilled, but Knox had been accurate in his description. "He's here," Clara said, her voice tight, as she stopped pacing and she noticed the headlights of the cars pulled into a small car park on the other end of the compound. "All right, showtime." Taking a strong stance, Clara cupped her hands behind her back and waited, steadying her breathing and likely trying to appear in control of the situation. Mike also straightened his posture, but continued to smoke another cigarette, and Farron stopped chewing her nails, her eyes still glancing into the darkness along the docks. Steele remained seated, though, resting back in his chair, one leg crossed over the other. Heavy footsteps soon echoed along the walkway between the administration building and the second warehouse, and from the shadows, a giant of a man strode forward, followed by a team of muscled men and women carrying 3 large crates. This was Rex Sterling, and his appearance gave credit to the rumours that surrounded him. He was nearly 6'6", with wide shoulders and a well-built physique. His head was shaved, displaying a dark tattoo running up the back of his neck and across his scalp. A thick beard grew on his cheeks and jaw, neatly trimmed to accentuate his square face and to frame his dark sunglasses. The man wore loose-fitting dress pants and a jacket of cream and a dark t-shirt with a low neckline that allowed his thick gold chains to be displayed. On his fingers were golden rings, and on his wrists he wore a large watch, also of gold. Rex led the way to the spot directly opposite Clara and motioned for his associates to place the crates on the ground. Steele took note of the man's help, for they were each nearly as muscled as their leader, including the women, and each carried a pistol at their belt. "Rex Sterling, I presume," Clara greeted the imposing man, trying to sound confident and a little bit unimpressed. "That's me, all right," Rex nodded as he played with one of his rings before his chest. "Who are you?" "Clara Coleswell," she replied as Steele remained quiet and continued to study Rex closely. "Associate of the company." Steele had always prided himself in his ability to read people, and from what he saw of Rex made him curious. The man cast an imposing figure to be sure, and the way he walked and stood suggested he knew how to fight to some degree. But why was he wearing sunglasses at night? Rex was hiding something about himself, which seemed obvious to Steele. Although Rex spoke with a deep and loud voice and sounded in command of the situation, far more than Clara. Everything about Rex told Steele that this man was all bravado. He would talk a good game and be firm and resolute in his decisions, and there was no doubt Rex was confident. But there was a reason the man had built up this image of himself to the point of almost being an act. "Associate," Rex huffed. "Where's the boss?" "I am the boss," Clara replied firmly, but Rex laughed at that. "I'm no idiot," Rex scoffed, causing Clara's scarred cheek to twitch. "That guy sitting down there's the boss. Am I right? Who are you?" "Call me Steele," Reinhardt replied casually, not denying the claim. "Steele is my partner in this," Clara interjected, shooting Steele an annoyed glare. Again Rex laughed aloud, a deep rumble from the depths of his gut. "Shall we get this started then, Steele?" Rex asked and motioned to his lackeys. The people that accompanied Rex were quick to follow the leader's instructions and opened large cases, revealing rows of handguns and boxes of ammunition. "A mixture of both modern pistols and older models," Rex declared, his voice loud and commanding. "Ammunition for both, and all in perfect working order. It was a pain getting them into Eden, but you'll find nothing better to kill a few fools with." As Rex spoke, he grabbed one of the modern handguns and loaded it with a clip, casually aimed the weapon off towards the docks, and fired a single round off into the darkness to prove it worked. With another laugh, the large man tossed the weapon to Clara, who fumbled in surprise and nearly dropped it. "So?" asked Rex, and Steele slowly got to his feet. "Good enough?" "No," Steele replied seriously, causing some surprise among the others. "I don't deal with people who wear sunglasses when they're talking to me." An awkward silence fell over the area, and Rex's subordinates glanced nervously to each other. Rex was silent, his lips thin behind his beard as he regarded Steele. But Steele did not back down, nor look away, and slowly a smile came to Rex's face before he laughed heartily. "Fair enough," the big man said, taking his sunglasses off and slipping them into his jacket. Clara and the others breathed easier, and the tension in the air eased. "Can I assume the revolvers are in working condition too?" Steele asked curiously. "You have my guarantee," Rex said seriously. "Guarantee," scoffed Clara, causing Steele to clench his teeth in annoyance. What guarantee can a merc offer that's any good? I run my business on goodwill, Rex said, his voice very serious. What do you think would happen if I sold people worthless guns? Of course we trust your word, Steele spoke up, shooting Clara a slight glare, which she returned tenfold. My partner is just the cautious type. May I have a closer look? Be my guest, Rex replied, motioning to the crate of weapons. Steele gave the man a polite nod and walked to the crate before picking up one of the revolvers. Opening the cylinder and giving it a spin, he took 2 bullets from the box. The cylinder stopped and he slipped the bullets in before giving it another spin and flicking it shut. Cocking the hammer, he aimed towards the docks, but did not fire, releasing the hammer gently. Double action, of course, Rex explained and grinned. I'm telling you, there ain't nothing more satisfying than fanning the hammer on a revolver. Steele smiled slightly and nodded. He was starting to like Rex Sterling despite his bravado. The man had a certain charisma about him. I've already wired you the money, Steele said with a smile, looking up at Rex, his words bringing a wide grin to the man's face. Rocky, Rex turned to the closest subordinate. Check the accounts. I trust you used an encrypted transfer. Of course, Steele said offhandedly, turning his attention back to the pistol in his hands. Incoming, Jessica's voice in Steele's ear stole his smile. He was about to turn about, but held his position, pretending to study the pistol more closely, his heart pounding in his chest as he waited for what seemed like hours before one of Rex's crew gave a call of alarm. Feigning surprise, Steele turned about and towards the docks, just in time to see Jimmy emerge from the shadowy fog with a dozen of his men with him. Guns were drawn quickly, but no shots were fired, and Rex eased his crew with a hand. Well now, Jimmy snickered, aiming his pistol at Clara. Ain't this a turn-up? Payback's a bitch, don't you think? Just like you, Clara. Jimmy and his crew laughed at that, and Clara sneered viciously, her scarred cheek twitching violently. You think I'm surprised? Clara huffed, a pistol in each of her hands, and both pointed at Jimmy. I would have been more surprised if you didn't show up. A look of confusion came to Jimmy's face, and he looked to Steele, outrage coming into his eyes. You fell right into our trap, you moron, Clara laughed, and as if on cue, her backup from the car park appeared at both sides of the undercovered area. Someone care to explain what the hell's going on here? Rex roared loudly, taking 2 semi-machine guns from behind his back. Who is this little prick? And what's this about a trap? Speak up, before I blow everyone's heads off. Rex's men were also on edge, their eyes glancing around nervously as they moved their barrels between different targets. Steele subtly took a step away from Jimmy, glancing towards the door at the end of the second warehouse, behind Rex's crew. Things were about to ignite, and he would need to make an escape quickly. I'll tell you what's going on, Jimmy sneered viciously. I'm here to take your guns, kill Clara and her crew, and cut this lying bastard to pieces. As Jimmy spoke, he turned both of his guns towards Steele, his eyes manic. Steele's gut twisted uncomfortably, as he suspected Jimmy would shoot him right then and there, with no regard for anything else. Run! Jessica cried in his ear as the sounds of sirens ripped through the darkness. Cops! Someone at the back cried out as the red and blue lights flashed in the fog. All parties were about to turn tail and flee from the scene, but Steele was not about to allow that. Cocking the revolver still in his hand, Steele fired a single shot towards Jimmy as he turned and sprinted for the glass door of the second warehouse. Someone cried out, and a chorus of gunshots deafened the night.